Hello, Zach here again with MTG Friends, and I called it at the end of the last video. There are more team-up cards that I kind of missed because they got spoiled the day after I recorded the first team-up. When you're watching these, all of these cards will already have been spoiled because my uploading is a little bit behind the actual reveals and stuff. But I decided to make this one a quick second video because I didn't want to have to make an hour-long video even longer. So, here are the 5 team-ups that were printed exclusively in the March of the Machine Commander decks. Let's get started. So, just like last time, we're going to be reviewing on a couple of axes here. How unlikely is the team-up? How like the original card is the new card? How good is the new card? Should these two stay teamed up after March of the Machine? How much do I want to team up with them in EDH? First, we have Elenda and Azor. This is a 6-mana commander. It is 3 white, blue, and black for a 6/6 legendary Vampire Knight Sphinx. It has flying, ward 2. Whenever Elenda and Azor attack, you can pay X, white, blue, black, and if you do, draw X cards. Beginning of each end step, you can pay 4 life, and if you do, make a number of 1/1s. Black Vampire Knight creature tokens with lifelink equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn. Here's the original 2 cards, Elenda the Dusk Rose and Azor the Lawbringer. So how unlikely is the team up? Pretty darn unlikely. Azor was trapped on Useless Island at the end of the Ixalan story, and Elenda was trying to steal his immortal son. She also has been invading this other part of Ixalan, but I don't really think they specifically interacted, so now they're together. I love how terrifying Elenda looks on this art, seeing her at war rather than kind of at peace in the Golden City. Really cool. Azor is also terrifying. He is large and he is smushing things. Very cool. Alright, now how like the original cards are they? I think they're pretty perfect, actually. Really great execution of these mechanics here. Here riffs on Azor's card draw trigger. When he attacks, you can pay X white, blue, blue, and you gain X life and draw X cards. This time you just draw X cards, but later you can pay life to make some dudes that'll gain you life. Elenda, when she dies, you make X 1/1 white vampires, where X is her power, and they have lifelink. Now you just pay some life. She doesn't have to die this time. It's fine. But I really like that it has flying. The ward 2 is kind of an interesting riff on Azor's silence effect, or semi-silence. It's a good way to protect them without having to just turn off somebody's turn. And then it keeps the 6/6 that Azor has. Really, really excellent execution here. This feels like these two have just been perfectly blended together into one card. How good is it? I love it. It is pricey, though. It's 6 mana. That's a lot of mana to invest, so that ward 2 is really helpful here. But the protection is nice, and the card draw is insane. 3 mana, and then just any extra mana you have laying around that you want to spend, and you can just refill your hand so quickly. And then just being able to pay 4 life to be able to populate your board based on the number of cards you've drawn that turn is crazy, especially in Esper colors that have really great card draw already. This card seems phenomenal. Should they stay teamed up? Maybe Elenda will just take Azor back to jail. I don't know. I say jail, I mean the Useless Island. I don't know how much memory he's regained here because we haven't gotten some bonus story here. But it's cool, but I don't think they're so much a team up as they are on the same side and fighting together. How much do I want to team up with them? I'm really intrigued by this deck. It seems like a powerful build that keeps resources up really well, just having lots and lots of cards in hand. And it keeps a small army brewing as well, which I think is really strong. It's got an attack trigger, which usually I don't think is amazing, but here, being a flying 6/6, I think it earns that attack trigger. It's big enough to feel like it can swing in pretty comfortably in a lot of scenarios. Alright, next up we have Moira and Teshar for 3 white, black for a 4/5 legendary Phyrexian spirit bird with flying. They completed my boy. I love Teshar. I have him in several commander decks, though I do not have him at the head of a deck. So it's really sad to see him all Phyrexianized and effectively dead after this, but someone had to go, I guess, and it's cool to finally see a Phyrexian team up. Moira, I'm not so sure she's Phyrexianized here, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, it's flying. Whenever you cast a historic spell, return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step, and if it would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Here's the originals here, Moira, Urborg Haunt, and Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. How unlikely is the team up? Like I said, immensely so. Poor Teshar has been completed. Moira, though, seriously, minus, the that's not even a full Phyrexian symbol on her stomach here. Like, she's gotten a little more goth looking, but minus like some spiky bits on her head, she looks really similar to how she did originally. So I didn't know that you could Phyrexianize the spirit, and I'm wondering if maybe she just decided to be a dick and join them anyway. She wouldn't have been the only one. We saw on the, I think it was Sozenkan, one of the universe, oh my gosh, multiversal legends cards. Jeez, that took me a minute to fish out of the air. Had them teaming up with the Phyrexians without being Phyrexianized. So who knows? Maybe. How unlike the original cards is it? I think this is really well done. Moira herself brings back things that died this turn, so a creature card in the graveyard that was put here from the battlefield on the attack trigger, or on the combat damage trigger, rather. And Teshar cares about casting historic spells and gets small things back. So basically now you cast a historic spell, and then you just get a thing back. The fact it's a non-land permanent is actually insane. That's really, really strong, especially because both Moira and Teshar only got creatures, so clearly Phyrexia has allowed them to branch out a little bit. But then that thing gains haste. You exile it at the beginning of the next end step, and if it would leave the battlefield, exile it and instead of putting it anywhere else. Like, that would be a downside, and it definitely is not something that original Moira or original Teshar do. So let's talk about how good it is. I think it's really strong. Like, just genuinely, I think this is a really strong card, as long as you're okay with losing the thing you reanimate. Unless you build a little repeatable flicker package into the deck, of course, then it's just really, really powerful. You're going to need a lot of historic cards, but as long as you can send the thing that would be exiled to exile and bring it back with a flicker effect, it won't stay exiled because it's a new object and it doesn't have to get exiled. So drop it, haste it, flicker it, now you got a permanent piece of reanimation. And the fact that this doesn't cost any mana to do, that's really, really crazy. Like, I'm genuinely considering taking my Rodolph Duskbringer deck and putting this at the helm with a slight retool, because this is such a crazy efficient reanimation package, as long as you are able to get some kind of flicker engine online. So there's definitely a requirement there, but it's real spicy. Now, should they stay teamed up? No. Teshar is certainly dead or inert now anyway, and Moira's a character. We didn't really know much about her. We just met her back in Dominaria United's Commander, so she is a card. And then lastly, how much do I want to team up with them? Like I said, I think this reads as a really wild Reanimator-style list. I am kind of looking about taking my Rodolph deck and maybe retooling it into this. It's one less mana. It doesn't cost any mana to do. Man, it's a really, really exciting card, and I think as long as you can build the package to keep your stuff around, you've got yourself a really potent commander. Alright, then we have Rashmi and Ragavan. 1 green, blue, red for a 2/4 legendary elf monkey. Whenever you cast your first spell during each of your turns, exile the top card of target opponent's library and create a treasure token. Then you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. If it's a spell with mana value less than the number of artifacts you control. If you don't cast it this way, you can just cast it this turn. Here's your originals, Rashmi, and hey, Ragavan makes his second appearance on this this review series. Because I didn't think we were going to get him on another card, but here he is. How unlikely is the team up? I mean, Rashmi's kind of consulate adjacent originally. She's more of an inventor than she was a consulate agent, but still. And a pirate's monkey does seem a little unlikely, but anything is possible with the Eternity's Crafter. How like the original cards? It's pretty nice, but I think the templating's a little messy and it makes it harder to read. It makes the treasure like Ragavan. It lets you cast something from an opponent like Ragavan. It even takes part of Rashmi's ability, which is when you cast your first spell each turn. This one is on the first cast of your turns only, and that's our serious downside. It's a nice mashup, but I feel like it has significantly weakened the original Rashmi. Alright, how good is it? Yeah, it's pretty good. But it being only on your own turns, unlike the original Rashmi, is a serious nerf to what original Rashmi could do. Gaining the ability to cast it with mana is certainly really nice. Like, I do like that. The fact where if you don't qualify for its original cast, rather than drawing it like Rashmi, you just get the ability to cast it, and then otherwise you get it for free. I also like the free treasures on it. Now, should they stay teamed up? Only if Kari Zev allows visitation rights. Like, I don't want Rashmi just stealing Ragavan. He's too cool for that. And then how much do I want to team up with them? I think it's an interesting deck for Teamer. I think it does things the colors don't usually do, but I think it's really limited in the value department. You get one additional spell each turn, and that's all they do. That's it. That's the whole card. So it's interesting, but I'm not like super enthused by this card. And our, let's see, not our final card. Our next card is Saint Traft and Rem Corollas. For simply blue, red, white, you get a 3/4 legendary spirit human. Whenever Saint Traft and Rem Corollas become tapped, make a 1/1 red human creature token if it's the first time. If it's the second time, make a 1/1 blue spirit creature token with flying, and if it's the third, make a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Whenever you cast a spell that has Convoke, untap Saint Traft and Rem Corollas. So they're telling you right there what they want you to do with this deck. Here's the original cards, Geist of Saint Traft and Rem Corollas Stalwart Slayer. How unlikely is the team up? It's pretty likely. Traft would definitely be a fan of Rem and vice versa, so I see them working together pretty nicely here. How like the original cards is it? This is just a Convoke tap version of Traft. Original Traft is when it attacks. This one's just when you tap it 3 times, you get your angel, but you get to keep them. They don't go away. You keep them. Unfortunately here, there is absolutely nothing about Rem's original card in here. It doesn't have his power and toughness. It has human, but it doesn't have flying, doesn't have haste, doesn't prevent damage, it doesn't deal extra damage. This is just, it has his colors and his creature type. And that's really disappointing here because Rem is a really cool card and a really cool character. I like seeing him on here, but it's really disappointing that this doesn't mirror anything about his original flavor. How good is the new card? Because, like, sure, it doesn't hit the flavor, but I think this card is pretty spicy with any sort of tap outlet and an effect like Intruder Alarm. So my thought here is probably use Saint Traft and Rem Corollas to crew a couple times, where you can just play a bunch of vehicles and run people over with a man and a ghost. So you... I mean, he's a 3/4, so he's already really good at crewing a lot of those larger vehicles. So you tap him to crew a vehicle, you make a 1/1 red human, Intruder Alarm is out, you untap Saint Traft and Rem Corollas, you crew your next vehicle, or that same vehicle if you've only got one, and you get your 1/1 blue spirit. Intruder Alarm triggers, you untap, and then you do it a third time, because you can crew the same vehicle multiple times. So it's really just an infinite tap and untap outlet there, except for the fact that Saint Traft and Rem Corollas only trigger 3 times a turn maximum. On your 4th one and so on, it doesn't do anything. Now, what is really nice, though, is you can do this every single turn. So in a full turn cycle, you're going to get yourself 4 humans, 4 spirits with flying, and 4 angels with flying. The fact that it says the thing about Convoke, like, yeah, that's cool, but I'm not going to be building a Convoke deck around this, I don't think. Like, I think you absolutely need a manual untap in some way, rather than just worrying about trying to chain cards with Convoke, because this doesn't have any draw built into it, so you're not going to be able to cast 3 Convoke spells in a turn and draw a whole bunch of cards. Convoke doesn't do that. Convoke is not very populated in blue, even with the new cards we got out of the set. So I think what's more exciting here is looking at those creature triggers and finding ways to untap Saint Traft and Rem Corollas that way. And that way, I think is really strong. Should they stay teamed up? Yes, I really like the idea of the heroic slayer haunted by a buddy Geist. That's really cool. It's nice to see Saint Traft still out there doing good. It's nice to see Rem Corollas still alive and not Phyrexianized. Now, how much do I want to team up with them? I think there's a semi-combo deck here waiting to happen. But like I said, I don't think the Convoke build is very exciting. I think that last line of text is going to be mostly flavor text for this card if you're looking for a more powerful build. All right, now our actual last card is Shalai and Halar. 1 red, green, white for a 3/3 legendary angel elf with flying and vigilance. Whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on a creature you control, Shalai and Halar deal that much damage to target opponent. Here's your originals: Shalai, Voice of Plenty; Halar, the Fire Fletcher. How unlikely is the team up? I don't see why they couldn't have teamed up. They're both great. They're both heroic. They're very cool cards. How like the original is it? It's not shabby at all. Shalai puts counters on stuff. This inherited her flying. Halar gets counters on themselves when you kick things and then deals damage equal to the number of 1/1 counters on them. So I really like that they took Halar's ability and kind of put it into whenever any of your creatures get that 1/1 counter, deal damage. I don't think there's as much Shalai flavor here as there is Halar flavor, but I like that original Shalai plays really nicely in this deck because she puts counters onto creatures, and then Shalai and Halar pings a whole bunch of them. Like, she teams up well with herself and Halar. And then how good is it, though? Oh boy, this card is absolutely insane. Like, it has multiple 1 or 2 card combos with it in the command zone that pretty much win the game on the spot. And I think this is the strongest card in the entire commander set. Might even be the strongest card in the whole set. It's got a couple things competing with it, but I think this card is insane. Should they stay teamed up? Absolutely, they're pretty awesome. And how much do I want to team up with them in EDH? I think this seems, like I said, insanely powerful. Total blast of a deck where you're already just doing great stuff with your counter themes, and then when you have Red Terror, War Elemental, or a Dockside Extortionist and Emil the Blessed combo, you're just going to win the game. So you are constantly threatening really dangerous plays as long as you just have a little bit of mana laying around. This card and this deck will be terrifying, and if you see it, expect to be fighting for your life. Yeah, this is amazing. Really phenomenal card here. And I think this kind of takes the Heliod Suncrowned CEDH deck, and I think it just adds more colors to it and puts the payoff in the command zone rather than the enabler. But I also think this just plays really, really nicely with Heliod too. Like, there's definitely a way to win there as well by just giving Shalai and Halar lifelink and then getting a counter on them, even just by swinging. Like, they're a 3/3 with Vigilance. They're going to be kind of hard to block since they've got flying. This is a phenomenal card to finish on, and I think this card is a house. With that, thank you so much for watching this little follow-up video. We absolutely are not getting any more team-ups right now because we have finished reviewing this set for its team-ups. The whole set has been spoiled. The whole commander set has been spoiled. If we get any more team-ups in Aftermath, I'll be sure to do a little update video there. But the next thing I'll be working on is just going over this set as a whole for EDH and picking out some favorite cards. So keep an eye out for that if you are interested in watching, and then I'll probably be working on a few deck techs as well. Thank you again very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, give that bell a little ding-a-ling, and I'll catch you in the next video.